Okay, so get this. A world where Sega reigns supreme.
Sega reigns supreme.
We're not talking like dusty old console in your basement, right?
Right.
This is a reality where, like, Dreamcasts, Chow Gardens, and just Sonic, so much Sonic,
Oh, yeah.
dominate the gaming world.
It's a beautiful thing to think about.
It is a beautiful thing to think about, and that's what we're diving into today
All right, let's do it.
with this what-if scenario.
I love a good what if.
Yeah, it really is as creative as it is fascinating to kind of go through this.
Yeah, and what's so interesting is that, like, it's not just nostalgia.
Right.
Like, this isn't just going back and being like, oh, remember how much we love Sega?
Yeah.
It's like this alternate timeline is like, how did they become the top, like, how did they make the decisions that propelled them to be constantly innovating and pushing?
Constantly pushing forward, yeah.
Yeah.
And like our source material really lays out this alternate reality, right?
Okay.
Where the Dreamcast, instead of kind of fading away as it did, it becomes like this monumental success.
Okay.
Right, so imagine like a world where Sega rides that wave and then just continues,
He's going.
releasing these consoles that not only rival PlayStation and Xbox, but surpass them.
Okay.
They are the top dog.
Well, and think about it. The Dreamcast was revolutionary for its time.
Yeah.
Especially with, like, it was doing online, right?
Right.
But in this alternate timeline, they secure something that is absolutely critical, third-party support.
Oh, wow.
We're talking industry giants like
Yep.
Square, Capcom, choosing Dreamcast for their biggest titles.
Okay, so this is where, for me at least, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because it's not just like a couple extra games in the library.
Right.
Imagine booting up your Dreamcast in like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And you're seeing Final Fantasy VII, Resident Evil 4,
Yeah.
Dreamcast exclusives.
And this is what we're talking about. We call them system seller titles.
Okay.
Games that are so big that they single-handedly influence what console people are buying.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in our reality, PlayStation 2 used that masterfully.
Yeah.
But in this timeline, Sega snags those partnerships early on.
Wow.
And so imagine the ripple effect. Gamers flocking to the Dreamcast. Developers now all of a sudden are like, oh, wow, this is the platform to be on.
Yeah.
It changes everything.
And changes everything. And then there's SegaNet.
SegaNet.
In this alternate world, it doesn't just exist.
Right.
It explodes.
It explodes in popularity.
Forget your dial-up connections. We're talking high-speed online gaming.
Years before Xbox Live.
Years before Xbox Live even enters the scene.
Right.
Like, this
But
is insane.
Think about the seismic shift Xbox Live brought to online console gaming.
Right?
Now imagine Sega doing that years earlier
Bro, yeah.
with SegaNet.
Wow.
We're talking massive online communities, thriving esports scenes,
Right?
all with that like signature Sega weirdness and, like,
Yeah, that's Sega flair.
yeah, it's Sega flag.
It just hits
Yes.
different, but it's not just about playing games online.
Okay.
Right. The source material hints at Sega Life, which is insane.
Sega Life.
Okay, this is years ahead of its time.
Okay.
Think Second Life,
Okay. Yeah.
but integrated with your Dreamcast.
Okay.
A vibrant online world where you could create avatars, you could hang out in virtual arcades, even explore worlds based on, like, your favorite Sega franchises.
That's so cool.
This isn't just a console. This is a portal
Right.
into this fully realized Sega universe.
It's like it becomes a cultural phenomenon then,
Wow.
not just a gaming service.
Yeah.
It changes how people connect. It changes how developers design games.
Oh, wow.
It changes how we even perceive virtual worlds.
Wow.
It's like this is a glimpse into what could have been if Sega had cemented its online dominance early on.
Yeah, so the Dreamcast is a smash hit.
Okay.
What comes next?
What's next?
This is where we're introduced to, in the mid-2000s, the Sega Neptune,
The Neptune.
which takes everything about the Dreamcast
Okay.
and just turns it up to 11.
All right. So one of the Neptune's most brilliant moves.
Yeah.
Backward compatibility.
It was smart.
Imagine, like, you're transitioning from your Dreamcast to this, you're popping in your old discs, you're experiencing them in even better performance.
You're winning over the fan base immediately.
Immediately.
You're rewarding the people who are already there and then saying, hey, to the new people, it's only going to get better from here.
Exactly.
And speaking of, the source material mentions the Neptune boasting some serious tech specs too. This is going toe-to-toe with the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360.
Yeah, we're talking cutting-edge graphics, processing power comparable to, if not surpassing, the competition.
Right.
But what truly sets the Neptune apart?
Okay.
Exclusive titles.
Oh, okay.
So remember how we were talking about system sellers?
Yes.
The Neptune has those in spades.
Wow. Okay.
We're talking titles like, Shenmue III finally gets released, giving fans that continuation of the saga.
Just the thought of it, I'm getting chills.
Yeah.
And that's not all.
What else?
This alternate timeline also has the release of Sonic Adventure 3.
Sonic Adventure 3, okay.
Which, according to the source material, surpasses even the wildest expectations of Sonic fans. Imagine a Sonic game crafted with the power of the Neptune, pushing the boundaries of what a 3D platformer can be.
So it becomes a landmark title, not just for Sega, but for the industry.
Wow.
Because the level of polish, the innovative gameplay, the way that it's pushing the hardware, it's setting a new standard.
Right.
It's cementing their dominance in this reality.
So this is where we start to see, okay,
Yeah.
long-term impact of the success.
They're snowballing.
They've got the hardware, they've got the titles that people want to play, they've got this online ecosystem that is thriving,
Right. They have it all.
It's the perfect storm.
Yeah.
It's propelling them to the top of the gaming world.
And it doesn't stop there.
Right.
This Sega, they never let up on the innovation.
Of course not.
So in the 2010s, they introduced the world to the Sega Aegis.
The Aegis, okay.
Which is a console so advanced.
Okay.
It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. The Aegis, oh man, it was pure Sega.
Yeah.
Bold, ambitious, maybe a little crazy, but,
Yeah, it wouldn't be Sega without a little crazy.
Exactly. Remember back in the day, those rumors about holographic displays?
Oh, yeah. What if?
The Aegis brought them to life.
No way.
We're talking stepping into a whole new dimension of gaming.
Oh, my goodness.
Literally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Imagine, a holographic Sonic game.
Right.
He's running around your living room.
Oh, it'd be insane.
Or Shenmue, but you're right there in Yokosuka.
You can practically smell the ramen.
Oh, man.
Sega always had a knack for, pushing the technology. Yeah. The Aegis, though, masterpiece. And it wasn't just about visuals.
Okay, so there's more.
Oh, yeah. Remember how motion controls were all the rage with the Wii?
Oh, yeah. Everyone was swinging that Wiimote around.
Sega took it, and what did they do? They Sega'd it up.
Of course they did. Had to. So what, instead of flicking your wrist, you're using your whole body.
Full body experience.
It's like they were already thinking about virtual reality.
Years ahead.
But they didn't stop there, did they?
Never. They were already thinking beyond the console. How gaming could be on everything.
Oh, wow.
They designed the Aegis to work with PCs, even early mobile devices.
They were way ahead of their time. I mean, we kind of take that for granted now,
Right. Cross-platform play, streaming.
It's just how it is.
But Sega was laying the groundwork back in the 2010s.
And think about Sega Channel. Even back in the day, that was revolutionary.
Totally. Now picture a refined version on the Aegis.
Okay.
Connecting every Sega console, old and new.
Oh, wow.
Seamless streaming, any device.
So I could play, Golden Axe on my phone?
On your phone.
That's insane.
They were decades ahead on cloud gaming.
Like a gamer's dream come true. But the innovations keep coming, right? Fast forward to the 2020s.
Okay.
The Sega Nexus.
This is where this what if gets really wild.
Okay, laid it on me.
The Nexus, it wasn't just a tech jump, it was a statement.
A statement, all right.
Imagine a console so powerful, it makes today's PCs look like toys.
Okay, so we're talking next level.
Next level. But get this, Sega commits to sustainability.
Hold on. So even as this global gaming giant, they're still thinking about the environment.
Absolutely. Even in an alternate timeline, real-world issues matter.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yes, Sega. Right. They're not just about power, they're about doing things right.
Saving the world one awesome game at a time. I like it. Yeah. But let's be real. The tech is the star, right? Neural interface controls. Virtual worlds that are like real life.
It's like something out of a movie.
It's Ready Player One, but Sega style.
And it makes sense, right? We've gone from joysticks to buttons to motion control.
Doctrinal progression.
The neural interface, it's the next step. No more controllers, you're just in the game.
Wow. But let's step back for a sec. This alternate Sega-dominated world, what does it mean for gaming overall?
Think about it. It's way more competitive. You've got Sega, this innovation powerhouse, pushing everyone.
So everyone's got to step up their game.
Exactly. Better games, more creativity.
And probably cheaper prices too, right?
Competition breeds excellence, right?
It's a win-win for us gamers.
This alternate timeline, it's the golden age of gaming.
Amazing. But it's not just about the games themselves,
What
right?
do you mean?
The cultural impact. What's Sega's legacy in this world?
Imagine Sonic, not just a mascot, but like a Mickey Mouse level icon.
Wow, yeah. Everyone knows Sonic.
And Shenmue. We're talking cinematic masterpiece mentioned alongside the greatest films.
Wow, so Sega is basically shaping culture at this point.
Exactly. It's a
Yeah.
world saturated with their unique style,
Yeah?
Arcades never die.
Oh, man. That's the dream.
Your grandma can pull off a sonic boom attack.
I love it. That's the world I want to live in. But this alternate timeline, it's not just about bigger, flashier games.
Right.
Our source material, they highlight Sega's commitment to its legacy,
Okay.
even as they're pushing into, neural interfaces and virtual realities.
Right.
Sega Channel is still a thing.
It thrives.
So even in this hyper-futuristic world, people are still nostalgic for the classics.
Of course. That never goes away. That desire to connect with the past, to revisit the games that we grew up with.
Yeah.
Sega gets it. They've made sure that their entire game library, from the pixelated sprites of, a Golden Axe to the hyper-realistic virtual worlds of the Nexus.
Wow.
It's all there on an evolved Sega Channel.
It's like having a museum, a library, and a cutting-edge gaming platform all in one.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
It proves their legacy, They shaped gaming history, and they're letting future generations experience it all.
So you're telling me that someone in the future, in this alternate timeline, could put on, their neural interface
Yeah.
and go from battling ninjas in Shinobi
Mhm.
to exploring these crazy alien planets in Phantasy Star.
That's the beauty of it.
This has been quite a deep dive. We've gone from saving the Dreamcast to holographic displays to neural interfaces.
It's a wild ride, right?
It is a wild ride,
Right.
especially in a world where Sega reigns supreme.
And it all comes back to what if, right? What if things had gone a little differently?
Yeah, what if?
But no matter what, the message is clear. Sega's commitment to pushing boundaries, to never settling, that's what makes them so special.
And that's something that resonates with gamers, no matter the timeline. But as much as I would love to stay in this Segaverse forever, we've got to jump back to reality.
Back to reality it is.
But I do have one final thought for you. We've explored how Sega, in another reality, could have reshaped the gaming world. Now I want you to take that a step further. Imagine your favorite classic Sega game.
Okay.
What does it look like, not just remastered, but thriving in this alternate timeline where Sega's on top? What kind of crazy innovations would it have? Let us know in the comments. Maybe, just maybe, our collective Sega dreams can influence the future of gaming in this reality. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
They're everywhere these days, Chaos Portal comics.
Yeah.
You've really tapped into something special with all this Chaos Portal comics material.
It really is something.
Let's dive into what's making them tick.
Okay?
Particularly their marketing savvy and why this universe is resonating so strongly with fans, including you.
What I think is so fascinating is how Chaos Portal manages to walk this tightrope between nostalgia and innovation.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just rehashing your childhood favorites. They're giving them depth, new challenges,
Right.
and even marital bliss.
Okay, you got me there. The fedora getting hitched to Renee, that's huge news even outside the comic book pages.
I know, right?
And they've been dropping hints for ages, building up the anticipation.
The classic long game, really.
Yeah.
And it's not just about one couple, right?
Right.
Chaos Portal understands that these characters are like old friends to their audience. Seeing them evolve, face relatable struggles,
Yeah.
and yes, even fall in love, creates a powerful connection.
And this is where their marketing genius comes in. This anti-chaos portal forum they supposedly had. Talk about a stroke of brilliance.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
It's a brilliant example of controlled chaos, creating a space for haters that's actually orchestrated by the company itself.
Right.
It's risky,
Yeah.
but it generates buzz, fosters a sense of community,
Sure.
and ultimately lets them poke fun at themselves.
It's like they're in on the joke.
Yeah.
And they're inviting the fans to be in on it, too.
Exactly.
But let's be honest, a clever marketing campaign only gets you so far. Are the comics any good?
The short answer is surprisingly yes.
Yep.
Take The Darkness of the Bleeding Moon arc, for example.
Right.
It would have been easy to let Bugsy be the goofy mascot forever.
Right.
Instead, they put him through the ringer. Coma, near-death experiences.
Wow.
They really turned up the darkness.
It's almost subversive, right? This character known for lighthearted platforming,
Yeah.
suddenly grappling with serious themes. Did you find that jarring as a reader?
Not at all.
Yeah.
It actually created this incredible opportunity for other characters to shine.
Okay.
Bugsy Prime, who often plays the foil, becomes this unlikely hero, demonstrating resilience and a surprising amount of depth.
And it paved the way for the rebuilding arc, which wasn't just about putting Cartoon Town back together, right?
Exactly. This arc explored the aftermath of trauma, both on an individual and a community level.
Okay.
You saw it in Bugsy's recovery, the way characters like Spyro and Crash Bandicoot stepped up.
Wow.
And even Strong Bad, putting down the keyboard to lend a hand.
It's that classic idea of finding strength in unexpected places, but filtered through Chaos Portal's unique brand of humor and heart. They really know how to make you feel something.
And that's what sets them apart.
Yeah.
It's not just nostalgia for nostalgia's sake.
Right.
They're using these familiar characters to tell meaningful stories that resonate with audiences on a deeper level.
And speaking of characters, they've added some interesting new faces to the mix. Ranma and Half joining the Chaos Portal universe. That announcement came out of left field.
A brilliant move, in my opinion. It expands their reach, tapping into the anime fandom, and speaks to their commitment to diversifying their character roster.
And it makes you wonder, what does a martial artist with a rather unique condition bring to a universe already bursting with personality? We'll explore that more a bit later in the deep dive. But first, let's talk about a crossover no one saw coming. Space Jam 3.
Space Jam 3 was pure Chaos Portal magic.
It's that self-awareness again, isn't it?
Yeah.
They know exactly what buttons to push. You've got the Looney Tunes basketball and a healthy dose of 90s nostalgia. But they didn't just phone it in. Did you notice how seamlessly they integrated the Chaos Portal characters into that world?
It's a testament to the writing team.
Yeah.
They understand these characters, their humor, and how to make them work together even in the most absurd situations. And let's not forget those Sabrina Online cameos. Pure fan service in the best way possible.
See, those are the little details that tell you they're paying attention, that they're listening to the fans. But it's not all about big screen adventures and crossovers. They've also been quietly amassing a pretty impressive library of titles, haven't they?
Absolutely. Red vs. Blue, RWBY, even Coyote vs. Acme. They're not afraid to diversify their portfolio and appeal to different audiences.
And Coyote vs. Acme is a particularly savvy acquisition. It taps into that classic Looney Tunes humor, but adds this whole new layer of legal satire. Who knew lawsuits could be so entertaining?
It's brilliant, really. They're taking these familiar characters and putting them in unexpected situations, forcing us to look at them in a whole new light.
Oh.
And that brings us to, in my opinion, one of their most audacious moves yet. Showdown in Cartoon Town, the musical special.
Okay, I have to admit, when I first heard about it, I thought this could go either way. A musical with Bugsy. But you know what? They pulled it off.
It's surprisingly catchy.
Yeah.
And it's not just a gimmick. They use the music to explore the characters' personalities, their backstories, even their hopes and fears.
Bugsy belting out a power ballad about resilience. It shouldn't work, but it does. And it ties in beautifully with the overall theme of rebuilding and recovery that we see throughout this era of Chaos Portal.
And speaking of recovery, let's not forget another major event that had fans buzzing. Bubsy's wedding to Sesamilia.
I have to hand it to them. They know how to tug at the heartstrings. After everything he went through, seeing Bubsy find happiness and settle down felt earned, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it wasn't all sentimental either. The subplot with Bugsy Prime trying to dodge Kim Possible's advances.
Oh.
Classic Chaos Portal. Blending humor and heart in equal measure.
See, this is what I mean about understanding their audience. They know when to give us the big emotional moments and when to inject some classic cartoon chaos. Speaking of which, launching their own TV channel on Pluto TV. Talk about a power move.
It's a savvy business decision. Pluto TV offers a wide reach and aligns perfectly with their target demographic.
And they're not just airing reruns, they're producing new episodes of Red vs. Blue, RWBY. They even brought back Earthworm Jim.
Which, as we know, came with its own share of controversy. Their decision to cut ties with Tommy Tallarico, especially after the whole Calico Chameleon situation, was a bold statement.
It showed they're not afraid to make tough calls, even if it ruffles some feathers. They're prioritizing the integrity of their brand and the trust they've built with their audience. And let's be honest, the Earthworm Jim revival is generating even more buzz because of it.
Controversy, when handled well, can be a powerful marketing tool.
Right.
And in this case, it seems to have worked in their favor.
It's like they have a knack for turning challenges into opportunities. Remember that time they broke the fourth wall on live TV? Characters literally acknowledging they're in a comic book universe. It was risky, for sure.
Yeah.
But that's Chaos Portal style, isn't it?
Seems to be.
They're not afraid to shake things up, and it usually pays off. But speaking of shaking things up, let's circle back to Ranma Half. What do you make of this latest addition to their roster?
Well, like we were saying, it's a strategic acquisition on multiple levels.
Yeah.
You've got the nostalgia factor, of course.
Yeah.
Ranma Half is a beloved anime with a huge dedicated fan base.
And it taps into that whole 90s anime boom, which seems to be back in a big way.
Sure, sure.
But it's more than just riding a trend, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Ranma brings a unique flavor to the Chaos Portal universe. The martial arts, the gender-bending humor, the sheer over-the-top energy.
Yeah.
It's a perfect fit for their brand of controlled chaos.
And they're going all in, aren't they? A new comic book series adapting the original manga. Having Ranma and the gang attend the Fedora and Renee's wedding, it's like they're weaving him into the fabric of this universe.
It is. And let's not underestimate the marketing genius of it all. Tying Ranma into their flagship title, creating these crossover events, it's a brilliant way to generate buzz for both franchises.
It's like they're saying, hey, remember this beloved anime? We're giving it new life, and you're all invited to the party. Speaking of parties, the Fedora and Renee's wedding. This has been years in the making, and they've been hyping it up like crazy.
And why not? It's a celebration of their success, a way to thank the fans for their support, and an opportunity to create another unforgettable moment in Chaos Portal history.
They even released that special wedding countdown comic. Behind-the-scenes sketches, character profiles, fan art, they really pulled out all the stops. It feels like they're not just telling a story, they're building a community.
That's right. And that's the key to their success, isn't it? That direct engagement with the fans, the sense that they're a part of something bigger. Remember when they opened up the forums to direct interaction with the Chaos Portal staff?
Genius move. Fans getting roasted by the creators. It's that playful, self-aware tone that sets them apart. It makes you feel like you're part of an inside joke.
Totally. And let's not forget the masterstroke of revealing that the Anti-Chaos Portal forum was an elaborate prank all along. It could have backfired, but instead it solidified their image as these lovable rogues who are just here for a good time.
And this heartfelt post from Red Pill Riddler and Trollmaster123 admitting they were genuinely touched by the fans' reactions, you could tell it was coming from a genuine place.
Absolutely. It humanized them, showed that behind the marketing savvy and the fourth wall breaking humor, there are real people who are passionate about what they do.
So what does it all mean? It means Chaos Portal Comics is onto something special. They've tapped into that sweet spot between nostalgia and innovation, humor and heart, and they've done it by building a genuine connection with their audience.
For sure. They've created a world that's both familiar and exciting, a place where beloved characters come to life in new and unexpected ways.
They've shown that comics can be more than just entertainment. They can be a platform for exploring complex themes, sparking conversations, and building a sense of community.
And as they continue to expand their universe, acquire new properties, and push the boundaries of what comics can be, one thing is certain. Chaos Portal Comics is here to stay.
So if you're looking for a comic book universe that's as unpredictable as it is entertaining, look no further than Chaos Portal Comics. Trust me, you won't regret it. Remember Bonkers, that hilarious bobcat keeping Toontown safe from all those wacky villains. Well, get ready for a wild ride, because today we're diving deep into Bonkers, 20 years later, where things take a surprisingly dark turn.
Yeah, and you know what's really interesting to me is how they take those lighthearted memories we all have, those Saturday morning cartoons,
Yeah.
and completely flip the script.
Totally. It's not the lighthearted slapstick we're used to.
Not at all.
Even that opening scene in the trailer, the rundown streets of Toontown, the music is somber, and then we see Bonkers, but he's not the happy-go-lucky guy we remember.
It's such a clever storytelling technique, though, isn't it? They draw you in with the familiar, that nostalgia, but something feels off, something darker is bubbling under the surface.
And it makes you realize this isn't the Bonkers you grew up with. And fans are picking up on that, especially with how they're bringing back familiar faces like Miranda Wright.
Oh, yeah.
But it's more than that, right? The trailer hints at how much more personal these cases are for Bonkers this time around.
Yeah. The stakes are definitely higher. In the original, it was always a guaranteed happy ending. Now it feels like something more is at risk.
Definitely. And the trailer alone has sparked so many debates online, but then you get to episode 2. And that's where things get really interesting, especially when they introduce the mystery of Jessica Rabbit's disappearance.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so clever how they subvert our expectations. They use a classic Disney trope, the message from the missing person, but they twist it.
Oh, okay.
Just as a dream is a wish your heart makes is still beautiful, but there's this really haunting quality to it now.
It's like a punch to the gut, especially when it cuts to Roger singing along and you can see he's drowning in grief. And you notice those grayed out tunes in the background. barely moving, repeating, is it worth it?
Chilling.
Right.
So creepy.
And they leave you hanging with that question. What is Roger willing to sacrifice to get Jessica back? And who's paying the price?
And fans like Toontown Enthusiast on the forum picked up on that immediately. I mean, one theory that spread like wildfire was that Roger's attempts to bring Jessica back were somehow draining the life force from other toons.
And what I think is remarkable is that they don't spell it out for you right away. They leave these little breadcrumbs for the audience to follow. Like, remember that hidden file on the Toontown Tourism Board website about Roger's experiment?
Yeah, it was like a treasure hunt. Fans had to crack the code to unlock it. Exactly. And the payoff was huge. We learned that he's using this combination of ancient toon magic, some sort of advanced technology, and this mysterious solution that could revive a toon.
But at a huge cost.
At the cost of their memories. And suddenly, Jessica's disappearance, it takes on a whole new meaning.
It's such a good example of how they use transmedia storytelling, using websites and social media to add to the story. But they do a good job of dropping enough hints in the show itself that even casual viewers can grasp how serious things are.
For sure. It creates this really layered experience for everyone, you know. You can engage as much or as little as you want, but either way, you're left with this lingering sense of dread, like something is very wrong in Toontown.
Yeah, and speaking of things being wrong, can we talk about how they introduce the Phantom Blot? It starts subtly with that weird hacked website and the distorted images of Mickey Mouse, but it just keeps escalating.
The way they use the website to reflect what's happening in Toontown is brilliant. It's like the darkness is seeping through the screen and is blurring the lines between the show and reality. And that's when the real chills hit. Like, remember Mickey's last message?
Oh my gosh, yes. It starts with Mickey's voice, but something's off. You can hear the fear in his voice as he's pleading for help.
And then his voice distorts, right?
Yeah, and then it transforms into the Phantom Blot's voice.
And that line, I'm basically everywhere out of reach, but just enough to the point where you can see me. I got chills. He's talking about being in the shadows, always pulling the strings, always present but never fully revealed. And that's what makes him such a terrifying villain. It's that fear of the unknown.
It's like he's invaded our childhood memories.
Right, and then Bugsy No Name himself pops up, but not in the show.
Oh no, this is where he goes straight to messing with the Phantom.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. He confirms he's the voice of the Phantom Blot, which, let's be honest, a lot of people had already guessed.
Right.
But then, oh man, then he drops the bomb that Jessica Rabbit's memory loss is permanent.
Talk about going straight for the heartstrings. The fans were devastated. I mean, the forum just blew up.
Yeah. It's like he knows how much power he has, and he's loving it. He even started this thread called, so you figured it out.
Yeah.
But there's more. Bugsy No Name.
Oh, he's such a tease.
Yeah.
Like, come on. But amidst all this darkness and, talk about a roller coaster of emotions, there's this other storyline that starts developing. A more personal one about Bonkers himself. Do you remember that chat log that leaped between him and Miranda?
Oh, you mean the one where they're reminiscing and Miranda's all like, we should really get together and talk about this more?
Yes.
The fans went crazy.
Everyone was speculating that maybe there was something more there.
Like a romance.
Yeah. Romance in the time of Toontown apocalypse.
Exactly.
But it's not all, hearts and flowers. Remember that scene in episode 4, The Color of Love? Bonkers is back at his apartment and he's putting on his gloves.
And you see it. For a second, there's a flash of gold as he adjusts his glove. It's a wedding ring.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And it's just a blink and you miss a moment, but for those who caught it, whoa!
Game changer.
It was huge.
Theories exploded online. Had they secretly gotten hitched?
Right.
Was that why he left the Force?
Yeah. Was their relationship taboo?
Like, what was the deal?
I know. And of course, Bugsy No Name, he couldn't stay out of it.
He always chimes in.
I know. So he says, fans are so close with their theories about the ring. Okay, interesting. But then he adds that no racism is involved.
Okay, so he's acknowledging that fans are picking up on the idea of this maybe interspecies relationship, but he's also shutting down any interpretations that could be,
Right.
offensive or misconstrued.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, so if it wasn't that, then what was it? What's the real story with this ring?
Seriously, what's the deal?
Yeah.
And that's what I love. They give you just enough to keep you hooked. You've got Roger spiraling, the Phantom Blot lurking around every corner, and Bonkers is walking around with this life-altering secret.
Right. And then if you connect Bonkers' story, this whole secret marriage, leaving the Force, and bring it back to what's happening in Toontown, it's kind of terrifying.
Absolutely. It paints a much darker picture than we initially thought. Like, this isn't just some outside force. This darkness, it's woven into Toontown itself.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder if Bonkers can't escape it, can anyone?
And that is a chilling thought.
Right.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to unpack all of this. The twisted brilliance of Bonkers 20 years later, and what it all means for the future of Toontown, and maybe even our own world. Okay, so we're back, and before the break, we were talking about Bonkers 20 years later, and how the show takes these really personal stories and weaves them into this bigger, darker narrative.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to make us question everything we thought we knew about Toontown.
Right, like none of those classic characters are safe.
And one of the best examples of that has to be how they use music.
Oh, yeah.
Like, remember that final scene in the first episode?
Okay, yeah.
You think you're getting a happy ending, and then bam, that haunting rendition of Smile, Darn Ya, Smile starts playing.
Wait, what? That's so creepy, that cheerful little tune.
I know. But it's all in how they execute it. Instead of that, upbeat tempo, they slow it way down and it becomes this melancholic, almost sinister melody.
Oh, wow. And then Bugsy No Name is singing it.
Oh, yeah. But his voice is all distorted, like a warped music box.
And did they change the lyrics?
Oh, you know they did. Instead of spreading joy, it feels like a warning, like that line, Toontown is darker than you'll ever know.
Mm-hmm.
Chilling.
Oh, totally.
It's like he's letting us in on a secret, but not a fun one.
Yeah, the kind of secret that keeps you up at night.
Exactly.
I saw some fans online, like Comic Lover 12, freaking out about that scene, theorizing about which other classic tunes might get sucked into the darkness.
Totally. Makes you think about how we associate these characters and songs with our childhoods, right?
Oh, for sure.
With innocence, laughter, happy endings. But Bonkers, 20 years later, is like, nope.
Yeah, it's not afraid to show us that sometimes those happy endings are just an illusion.
It forces us to confront this idea that even innocence can be lost. And you know what? I think those classic Disney afternoon shows always had this darkness lurking beneath the surface, but they never really went there. And now Bonkers is forcing everyone to confront it.
Along with all those uncomfortable truths.
Yeah, we thought we knew these characters.
Right. And it goes back to Bonkers himself, too. I mean, he's still that goofy, optimistic bobcat at heart, but there's this sadness to him now, like he's seen too much.
And that's what makes him such a good main character for this, because he feels real. He's dealing with loss, secrets, the pressure of having to fix everything. I mean, we've all been there, even if it's not in a world of talking animals and magic.
Exactly. So, okay, last question. Big picture. Is Bonkers 20 years later just a nostalgia trip with a dark twist? Or is there something more going on?
I think it's both. I mean, yeah, it plays on that love we all have for these characters in this world, but it's also asking us to think critically. Like, what happens when the line between what's real and what's fantasy gets blurred?
That's a good question.
If Toontown, a place built on imagination, can be corrupted, what does that mean for our world?
Right. What happens when the things that once brought us joy now bring us fear?
That's a heavy question, I know.
It is.
But it's important to sit with it for a little bit. And maybe by exploring these darker themes through something like Bonkers, we can start to understand ourselves and the world around us a little bit better.
Okay, I like that. And that is a great note to end on. So that wraps up our deep dive into Bonkers 20 years later. But we want to hear what you think. What surprised you the most? What are your theories? Head over to our website or find us on social media and let's talk Bonkers. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.
Ever get that feeling? Like we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg when it comes to, well, reality.
It's a compelling thought, this idea that what we perceive as normal is just a tiny sliver of what's actually out there.
Right. And today's deep dive, we are diving headfirst into that very idea as we explore the mysterious Middleman Institute. We're talking about an organization so secretive, so under the radar, most people wouldn't believe it if you told them.
Dedicated to monitoring, containing, understanding. They deal with the strange, the unusual, the downright eerie, the things most of us can't even fathom.
And the best part, we're not just working with rumors or secondhand accounts here. We've got our hands on classified logs, transcripts, even some song lyrics. But here's the real kicker. We're getting inside the head of the Institute's enigmatic leader, Bugsy Prime.
We have access to his personal logs, not the official reports or sanitized summaries. His raw thoughts, his frustrations, his personal struggles, it's a whole new perspective on this world.
Okay, so before we go any further, we got to ask, who is Bugsy Prime? What makes him tick? What makes him qualified to head up an organization like this?
Well, let's just say he's not your average pen pusher. We're talking about a man who's gone toe-to-toe with interdimensional beings, someone who's walked paths most agents wouldn't even dream of.
See, this is what I love about these deep dives. Every bit of information is like opening another door in a seemingly endless labyrinth of mystery, and the stakes are higher than we could have imagined. So if he's dealing with cosmic-level threats, what exactly is the Institute protecting us from?
The veil, that's what they call it, the barrier, the divider between our world and, well, everything else. And trust me, you don't want to know what's on the other side.
The Veil. It's a fitting name, isn't it? This invisible curtain separating us from the true nature of reality. The implication here is that something is actively maintaining that curtain, keeping the truly weird, the potentially dangerous stuff from spilling into our world.
That's the Institute's whole purpose, at least according to them. Someone has to answer the call when the strange comes knocking, and they've dealt with some truly bizarre characters. Entities that would make even the most skeptical among us do a double take.
Speaking of bizarre, how about we start with this? Remember those harmless Where's Waldo books? Turns out our striped friend is not as innocent as he appears.
Not harmless anymore, no. We're talking murder, disappearing acts that would make Houdini envious, and an unsettling ability to create copies of himself.
Copies. How many Waldos are we talking here?
That's the thing, the Institute isn't even sure. One report cited over 1,000 different containment attempts. It's not just the sheer number, though, it's how he does it. Like, he's manipulating the very fabric of reality, blending in, popping up where you least expect him.
It really makes you look at those crowded beach scenes in a different light, doesn't it? Suddenly finding Waldo doesn't seem like such a fun game anymore.
Makes you wonder, the Waldo they did manage to catch, was it even the real deal, or just another copy?
Okay, now that is a chilling thought. So we've got a homicidal, multiplying Waldo on our hands. What else is on the Institute's radar?
How about a certain dream demon with a penchant for chaos, a taste for the bizarre? Bill Cipher, ring a bell.
Bill Cipher. But wait, I thought he was trapped, stuck in Stan Pines' mind.
That's what we all thought. But it seems even imprisonment can't contain Bill's reach entirely. He may be locked up, but somehow he's managed to set up a website.
Wait, hold on. Bill Cipher is running a website from inside the Institute.
It's more disturbing than that. Think about it. An entity of pure chaos, trapped, with only one outlet. A website he's manipulating from within his containment cell. They call it, "This is not a website."
And something tells me that's not just a catchy name.
Not even remotely. Agents have been reporting these strange color ciphers, messages from another dimension, and they all seem to be connected to this website.
Okay, so we've got a homicidal Waldo running amok, a website building, chaos god, messages from another dimension. Anything else we should be worried about?
Oh, we're just getting started. Remember how I mentioned those things lurking behind the veil? The things you really don't want to know about.
Please tell me you're not about to say clowns. I draw the line at clowns.
No clowns today. How about something a little closer to home? Something you probably wouldn't expect. It's time to talk about Barney.
Barney. As in Barney the dinosaur? You're being serious right now?
Completely serious. Remember those things you don't want to know about? According to these logs, Barney is the reason those things stay put.
Okay, you're going to have to elaborate on that
Yeah.
because I got to be honest, I'm not following. We're talking about the singing, dancing, hug-loving dinosaur. What could possibly be terrifying about that?
That's what makes it so unsettling. That's just it. A mask.
A mask? For what?
Something ancient. And when I say ancient, I don't mean old as dirt. I'm talking older than time itself, before around was a thing.
Older than time. You're saying this cuddly purple dinosaur is some kind of cosmic entity.
Barney the Eternal. And the logs seem to suggest a fascinating, albeit disturbing, duality to his nature. On one hand, he genuinely loves children, sees them as these pure beings full of wonder.
Okay, well, that's sort of sweet. In a weird cosmic entity kind of way. There's a but coming, though, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. As much as he loves children, it seems he has a different sort of hunger, a hunger for adult things.
Come on. Are you saying Barney eats people?
Not quite eats, more like consumes. He feeds on negativity. Fear, despair, cynicism, all those lovely things adults are so good at.
That's disturbing. It's like someone took this universally recognized symbol of childhood innocence, this comforting figure, and twisted it into something.
Exactly. And if these logs are to be believed, what we see, that's just the tip of the iceberg. As for his true form, well, let's just say they've got a very good reason to keep him away from anything sharp.
You know, I'm kind of glad I never had to sit through a Barney marathon now. So they've got Barney the Eternal on file. Who else has Bugsy wrangled up in this institute of his?
Well, there's this other dimension they're watching very closely, one that hits a little close to home, actually, the Welcome Home universe.
Wait, Welcome Home? As in that creepy ARG we've been following? You're telling me that's real too?
As real as it gets, if the Institute is to be believed. And these recent Christmas updates, major red flags. That cheerful facade is crumbling faster than a gingerbread house in a hurricane.
I'll admit, that Christmas special was more than a little unsettling.
Yeah.
Especially that whole thing with the mailman and his attachment to empty mailboxes.
Right. Like someone took the concept of a welcoming neighborhood and injected it with pure nightmare fuel. But here's where it gets weirder. They've got physical objects from the welcome home dimension.
Whoa, artifacts, like what? And how do you even get a physical object from another dimension?
$1 million question, right. They haven't figured out how these objects crossed over, but they are covered in this strange black goo.
Black goo, that doesn't sound ominous at all.
Right. They think it could be connected to some kind of dimensional rift, but they're not sure.
So not only is this welcome home world real, but whatever's happening over there is starting to bleed into our reality.
They've got a whole team working on it, analyzing those artifacts, trying to understand the connection. They even have a dedicated outpost just to monitor for further breaches.
An entire outpost for a kid's show. I'm going to hand it to Bugsy. He takes his job seriously.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something earlier about this all being personal for Bugsy. What did you mean by that?
Well, these logs, they're more than just mission reports. They're a glimpse into his personal life, his history, and there's one name that keeps popping up. A name that throws a wrench into everything we thought we knew about Bugsy Prime.
Okay, now you've really piqued my interest. Who is this mystery person?
Carmen Sandiego. Carmen Sandiego. A name that echoes through the ages. Turns out she's a pretty big deal in Bugsy's world, too.
Carmen Sandiego. Okay, gotta admit, that's not who I was expecting. What you gotta do with all this? Don't tell me she's like moonlighting as a chaos god in her spare time.
Not quite, though knowing Carmen, she could probably rock a chaos god outfit. No, it's way more complicated than that. They have history, these two.
History. Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
It goes way back, before the Institute, back when Bugsy was just John Augustus Kuro, a rookie agent working for ACME.
ACME, as in Carmen's old stomping grounds. You're kidding.
I wouldn't joke about something like this. They were partners, and from what I can tell, the best ACME had ever seen.
Hold on. Partners as in partners.
The logs get a little vague on the specifics, but let's just say there was definitely something more than just friendship there. And then, well, Carmen did what Carmen does best.
She disappeared.
Vanished. Poof, only to reappear as the world's most wanted thief.
Talk about adding insult to injury. I can't imagine what that must have done to Bugsy.
It wasn't just a fling, though. This was years of partnership, built on trust, shared experiences, maybe even love. And then she just walks away.
Ouch. Yeah, that's rough. So all this time, he's out there battling interdimensional baddies containing cosmic horrors, and he's still carrying a torch for Carmen Sandiego.
Adds a whole new layer to things, doesn't it? Makes you wonder if bringing her in isn't just about duty. You know, maybe it's personal.
Okay, you've definitely hooked me now. So does he ever actually catch her?
There's this one transcript that really gives us a glimpse into their dynamic. It describes a session between Bugsy and Bill Cipher. You know, their little weekly therapy session.
Oh, right, because even Chaos Lords need to unpack their issues every now and then.
Well, this particular therapy session, it takes a turn. Because guess who decides to drop in?
Let me guess. Carmen Sandiego.
Bingo!
Wait, Carmen Sandiego is inside the Middleman Institute. How did she even get past security?
$1 million question, right? The transcript doesn't say how, but one thing's for sure. Carmen's presence, it throws Bugsy completely off his game.
Oh, I bet. And Bill Cipher, ever the agent of chaos. I'm sure he was loving every second of it.
Oh, absolutely. He starts in with the jabs, you know. Can't say I'm surprised. How's it going, lovebirds? Classic Bill.
Great.
He even starts reminiscing about the good old days when Bugsy was a bit more, shall we say, carefree.
So what does Bugsy do? Does he crack under the pressure?
He comes close, but there's this shift in him, and it all revolves around Carmen. Her presence, it's like a calming effect. Seriously. Even though she's the reason for all this turmoil in the first place.
It's a paradox. He's somehow more powerful and more vulnerable at the same time, more intense, more focused, but there's control there that wasn't there before.
Which probably drove Bill Cipher absolutely nuts.
You got it. He wants to see Bugsy lose it, to give in to the chaos. But Carmen, she's like an anchor.
It's like emotional chess, and for once, Bill's not the one calling the shots.
Exactly. And get this, Carmen doesn't say much during this whole exchange. But when she does speak, her words have weight.
Oh, I bet. Give me an example.
At one point, she just looks at Bill and she says, "You've underestimated him before, Cypher. Don't make that mistake again."
Ooh, burn. Coming from Carmen Sandiego, that's gotta sting. Right. Bill thought he could use Carmen to manipulate Bugsy, but she flips the script. And I think that's a big part of why Bugsy is so drawn to her, you know? This strength, this unshakable sense of self.
So what happens? Does she just waltz out of the Institute, leaving Bugsy to clean up the mess?
That's where things get really interesting.
So last we left off, Bugsy, Carmen, and Bill were in the middle of, well, it felt like one of those classic Western standoffs. Tension thicker than a bowl of oatmeal. What happened next?
Right into the thick of it we go. They're leaving, Bugsy and Carmen. Bill, of course, can't resist lobbing one last taunt as they go. Something about love making even Chaos Lords predictable.
Oh, I can only imagine. Knowing Bill's cipher, it was probably something much more irritating and cryptic than that.
Guaranteed. But here's the kicker. Carmen's the one who answers him, not Bugsy. She just looks at Bill, cool as ice, and says, he's not worth it. And then they walk out.
Wow. So even now, after everything, Carmen's still looking out for Bugsy?
There's a protectiveness there, definitely. Like, she sees right through Bill's game. He wants to use this to exploit Bugsy's emotions, and she shuts it down.
It's funny, you know, you'd think someone like Carmen Sandiego, a world-class thief, she'd be all about a little chaos. But here she is, trying to keep things stable, at least for Bugsy.
It's a complicated relationship, layers upon layers of history and shared experiences. Regret, even. It's hard to say for sure.
And let's not forget Bugsy's emotions. They're not just part of his personality. They're tied to his powers, to his ability to contain all this chaos. Imagine if he did lose control.
Exactly, which is what makes this whole Carmen Sandiego situation so fascinating and potentially dangerous. She's the wild card in all this.
Speaking of wild cards, what about those welcome home artifacts? The ones covered in that creepy black goo. Any updates on that front?
Oh, there are definitely updates. Remember how we talked about those artifacts being like conduits, channels between dimensions? It's weirder than that.
Weirder how? Do tell.
The black goo, it's not just residue, not just something left behind. It's more like a beacon.
A beacon. For what exactly?
For something in the welcome home dimension, something that's been trying to reach out to make contact.
Okay, now that's just creepy. Are we talking about the puppets? Because if those things start showing up in my backyard, I'm out.
It's not clear what it is, but it's drawn to those artifacts and that black goo. That seems to be the key.
So are they any closer to figuring out how to close this dimensional rift? Because the last thing we need is for something from the Welcome Home universe setting up shop in our reality.
They're working on it, but it's tricky. See, whatever's on the other side, it's learning, adapting. Every time they try to contain the rift, it finds a new way to push through.
It's like a cosmic game of whack-a-mole, except the moles are made of nightmares.
And just when you think things couldn't get any weirder, remember that other name I mentioned? Nicholas D. Wolfwood II.
The gunslinger. Wait, that Nicholas D. Wolfwood, the one who was, well, you know.
The very same. It seems death is just a minor inconvenience when you're dealing with interdimensional beings.
I see your walking paths seasoned agents wouldn't believe and raise you one resurrected gunslinger.
Right. And get this, those artifacts, the ones from the Welcome Home dimension, he's been spotted at nearly every incident.
Are you saying Wolfwood is behind this? That he's the one opening these dimensional rifts? But why?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The logs don't give us concrete answers, but they hint at a connection between Wolfwood, those artifacts, and, well, Barney the Eternal.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Back up. You're saying there's a link between a resurrected gunslinger with a penchant for oversized weaponry, interdimensional artifacts oozing black goo, and a cosmic entity disguised as a purple dinosaur who sings about sharing.
It's a long shot, I'll admit, but the timing, the locations, the sheer improbability of it all, too much to ignore.
You know, for a while there, I thought we were just dealing with a heartbroken agent and his chaotic love life. Now, I'm not so sure what to believe. We've got interdimensional rifts, resurrected gunslingers, ancient entities, chaos gods running websites from their containment cells. It's a lot to process.
That's the thing about peeking behind the veil, isn't it? This glimpse into the world of the Middleman Institute, it shows us that the impossible, it's just the beginning.
So where does that leave us? What are we supposed to do with all this, with these revelations?
I think that's a question we should all be asking ourselves. If even a fraction of what we've uncovered is true, then the lines between our reality and, well, everything else are a lot more blurred than we realize.
So what you're saying is, we're not just passive observers in all this. We're all part of this big, messy, slightly terrifying, interconnected tapestry.
Exactly. We may not all have Bugsy's powers, but we're all players in this game, whether we know it or not. And the choices we make, they have consequences. They ripple outward in ways we can't even begin to fathom.
So if there's one thing our listeners take away from this deep dive, it's this. Keep your eyes open, question everything, and never underestimate the power of a seemingly innocent purple dinosaur. Because in a world where anything is possible, the impossible is just the beginning.